Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Alena as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. Alena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman.
Welcome to Magical Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman. And guys, that ease and betterment is so much needed, not only for just one person, but for all of the society, probably the whole country, probably the whole world. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this ease and flow. And I'm kind of... I'll tell you, all week, it's been coming to me. People have been bringing it up to me in many, many different ways. But I'm going to tell you a story. What got me started on talking? We've got to let the cat out of the bag. We really do. And I haven't done it yet on this show, and I'm going to do it. So here we go. I was in the grocery store. And I tend to go to the smaller grocery stores only because I like the music. I like peace. So I'm going in a smaller grocery store, and I'm just about to get my cart and go in. And this guy comes, and he's getting a cart, and he goes in. Nice guy. And you could tell he just wanted to talk. And so, I get it. So I let him talk. And he told me this story, which kind of blew my mind. He was in another grocery store, a larger one. The reason why I mention that is because the aisles were larger, wider. And he saw a person coming the other direction. And so he stopped his cart because he thought he was in the way. And this woman motioned for him to move forward. And he started to move forward. Then she took her cart and rammed it into him. And then swore at him for getting in the way. Whoa. Now, this man did take the higher road. He just let it go. He could have started a full-out argument right then and there. But isn't that interesting? And you're saying, oh, these rude people, right? Okay. I'd say that too. Well, not really, but that is a good case. Let's put it that way. And then I look at the light turns green, just barely turns green, 2 lanes. The cars are just starting to press on the gas, and people start honking. I see people being sarcastically rude when you talk to them sometimes. Okay. And then don't even get me started on social media. I hear more and more people talking about how awful the responses they're getting from other people. People on all of them, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. They're putting out a nice quote and somebody just crashes it. All right. So what's going on? We have a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger. How society has been handling being shut in during COVID and the tensions there, losing jobs or jobs being morphed into something else, being closed in with these strangers we call family for a long time, or even being alone for such a long time. Okay, that's enough. That's enough for people. But then we've got the shots came out, which was great. But then we made them into a football team, the anti-vaxxers, the vaxxers, the mask people, the non-mask people. You can't do this because if you wear a mask, you look like this. And if you don't wear a mask, you look like this. And everything's like teams, football teams. And everybody's arguing. Again, setting up an angry scenario. And people are being bounced back and forth. Now we're into shortages. You try to get something, you can't get it now. And meanwhile, we're being fed more and more and more of these fight or flight kind of news items every day. And that makes anger, guys. Worse than that. Worse. It gives the feeling of lack of control of our lives. And when people feel a lack of control of their life, they want to get control back. They want to get stable again. They want to stand on stable ground again, right? Yeah. And so now we're seeing control. What is that? People grabbing control, but in the wrong way. All of a sudden, we're making laws and trying to gain control that way. We're trying to stop people from arguing or standing up. That thing where we want parents not to even be able to speak up on a board meeting. What is that? Gaining control. I have even seen it in neighborhoods. All of a sudden, they want us, even in the neighborhood I'm in, all of a sudden, we want to suddenly give up our rights totally on what we do with our home. What? Who wants all that control? It's a response. It's a response. And this is what I'm calling it. AER. That's what I'm calling it. AER. Adverse Emergency Response. I made up that term because it's appropriate. Adverse Emergency Response. And more, we are living in that fight or flight and that fear, and that feeds the ground for adverse emergency response. And it feeds the fire inside of us. That panic, that wanting to get on stable ground, that control, that anger that everybody is throwing us into this weird world that we can't control. Okay? And this is the thing, folks. Fire feeds fire. Fire creates more fire. And yes, fire does purify. Fire does start new growth. But I'll tell you one thing. There's no new growth if there's no water. Water is just as strong, but it has a more peaceful lack of fight or flight response, more of a calm, insightful, strong direction. So how do we take our fire and transform it into the water? And that's really what it's all about. And so that's what we get. We start getting people now saying, and I see them all the time, I'm seeing it more and more, we want to move off the grid. You hear it, you see it all over social media. Move off the grid, go live in the mountains. Now, okay, I get that actually. Live without people around, simply with the land, have everything solar and using things just as we need, being more minimalist, or get a van and just drive all over the United States. We're seeing more young 20s, 30s people doing this. And I think it's amazing. And I also see older people doing it, but mostly I see the younger. And that's a call, folks. That's a response. Get me to some place that I can control, that I can let go, where I can let go of this fight or flight, where I can feel at peace and have ease and flow in my life. Get me back to the simpler things, right? Okay. So should we all move to the mountains? Well, then we would probably not have mountains, right? We'd be full of people, no trees. And then we get the other group that I see coming out everywhere, who say, I want to transform. Give me that magic pill. Give me one tool that'll transform me totally. And a guru And so they look for the guru and they say, give me something. I want to transform now. And the thing is, the guru will say, sure, I got this one sure tool for you. But it's not about that. It's not about that, folks. I'd love to tell you there's a magic pill to make everything go away. But it's not. It's not a McDonald's. It's not a fast food joint. You can't just go drive up, take something, and be all transformed. Be off the grid. Let nothing affect you. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can start to take a look at yourself and say, wait a minute. You know, it's funny. All transformation, do you know what transformation really, really is? It's the small little things we do or the things that we experience in such a way that it causes us positive growth inside. That's all it is. Positive growth inside. I hear so much, oh, I don't know if I want transformation, Alena, but I don't want to do the work. That sounds so hard. Well, you're doing it wrong. You're forcing it. Here's the thing. Transformation happens when you're ready. When that realization, I've always found that in my own growth, that the more I just let my mind fill with ideas, and when one just clicked and I went, then that realization reached into me and caused a change within myself. That's really what personal growth is. And they always say that the teacher will show when you are ready. I've always had that happen. When I was 18, I had it with my mom. And a little bit of my dad too. And I really needed to figure out why I felt I could do all sorts of things and everybody else was telling me I couldn't. And that's when I met Wayne Dyer. When I was going through my divorce, I all of a sudden was met up with a wonderful person who was right here in my hometown, who was way ahead of her, way ahead of time in thinking. And she was doing a program. She was a psychiatrist who was doing a program through the courts called Right Relations. And I ended up learning from her. And she really helped me to start to see that I could get through my own divorce, she along with someone else. Those teachers came up to me. And then when I was ready and I wanted to see the next step in my life, all of a sudden Bob Proctor showed up in my life. And that's basically, along with other things I was listening to, those were the teachers that showed up in my life. And somehow I just thought I needed to learn from them. There was never anything painful, but each step I take is a realization. Now, so if you want to change, you don't want to be angry all the time. You don't want to cause that popcorn furiousness to other people. We're all in this together. And I'll let you in on a little secret. The people who are making the greatest changes in this world right now aren't the people who are the so-called influential with money. You can go that route. And yes, they are. But let me tell you, if you don't like their ideas, you can't fight them where you are right now because you're a mess. The people really that can change things are the people that stop having the adverse emergency response and have gotten themselves into a mindful presence of saying, wait, I don't need to fall for all this. Wait, let me just learn a little bit more. Let me take a breath. And then with that breath and that letting go of that panic inside, they then can see a better route for themselves. They don't get in with all the hype. And what does that do? They see the opportunity. They see the opportunity. Well, basically, that's what I did. I saw the opportunity to develop a program for people to help them in this time. That's the inevitable you. While everybody was going crazy with everything, I got the top experts to help because I know that when a person is ready, they need the teachers to help them gain whatever they need for their own awakening, their own transformation in a nice, steady way to get that ease and flow back in their life and get some clarity in their thinking. And that's not an ad. That's really the truth. I sat there and I called the experts. I went and I got everything together. I did the interviews. I did the teachings. And I put that together. And that's the reason why I did it. I was seeing too many people who could not control their anger. And that doesn't do us any good as a society. It doesn't do us any good as a town. It doesn't do us any good with ourselves. So, all right. How do we... I want to give you something today to get you started, because I always do. That's what I do. And although it's not a magic pill, it'll get you started on this road, because your mind is just spinning out of freaking control. So you've got to consciously take the reins and say, wait a minute, this is not where I want to be. Now, how can you do that? First of all, I'm telling you guys, start to write down some gratitude. And sometimes that gratitude won't look so much like gratitude. You know? And I know I did that. The first time I wrote down the gratitude, I was very sarcastic. But then I started to see how I would laugh at it. And then I would change into what I was really grateful for. And it can be the simple things. It can be the wonderful family. It can be the big red dog that I have, you know. It can be it's a sunny day. It can be I get another opportunity. Start out that way so you can see your own possibilities. And it quiets your mind into a positive vibration, a positive mode, a positive way of being. Gratitude is really good, and I would practice that at night and in the morning. I would turn off the news. Believe it or not, my God, people, you don't need the news. I don't listen to the news, and I get more of my fill of the news than I want. You don't need it. And if your mind is spinning out of control, turn it off for a while. And start to connect with people that make you happy, things that make you happy. And breathe. I took a walk, I think on Sunday. I went to my favorite little river wetlands here, find a nature preserve. And I went off the beaten path because I love doing that. And I went over to, I found this other pond. It was a different pond than I've ever sat at before. And it was a sunny day, and I just sat down. There was a little bench there, so I guess it wasn't too off the path for some people, but for me, it was new. So I sat down on that little bench, and I just watched. And there was a family of killdeer, which are really cool birds, and the ducks and the geese, and 2 deer were frolicking. I just sat very, very still. A grasshopper came up and actually got on a blade of grass and stared at me. Like, what are you doing here, lady? And I just allowed myself to close my eyes, feel the breeze, and escape, let it go. And it's so funny when you let it go, it's not like you go into an empty void. It's like the universe says, oh my God, she finally did it. And all of a sudden you feel this immense love and power inside you. But you got to let go of the fire. You've got to let go of the fire. You've got to allow the truth, the water, the light to enter into you. And you've got to build the self that does that by sitting by a pond, allowing yourself to just feel the real world. Building a vibration that's higher, listening to music that you don't have to dance in your car. My gosh, I'm turning on, I love Baroque music. I love it. And one of my favorites is Vivaldi. So I'm putting on Vivaldi and just listening. And am I being an ostrich with my head in the sand? No, I'm not. Because when you let go, then you come back stronger. You come back with more wisdom to be able to deal with however you, or the avenues you have or you want to create to deal with the problem. In my line of work, it's helping to help people get rid of that adverse emergency response and instead act with the flow of water, with wisdom, not bouncing like a fireball to each crisis. It's really important now more than ever that we start to look at ourselves and say, how can I create more of a water response versus a fire response? I always think back. I don't know why. I heard one time, I can't remember where it was, about Abraham Lincoln. I think I would have liked him very much. And I always hear that when our country was about to go into one of the worst wars, he wasn't full of fire. In fact, when his whole cabinet is arguing, I heard stories that he sat back and just listened. He absorbed. He contemplated. He used his intuition and probably his connection to something higher. Prayed. And then when he came back, it was with a softness and a firm decision. And that firm decision led us into not only a war, but a change in the way that we view other people who are different from ourselves, and a new America. We need to get ourselves centered again. And the only way that we can do that is if we say, stop. I need to breathe. I need to find the things that nurture me. I need to take that walk. I really need to just do the gratitude and start to see that my life, my family is well. And then I move forward from that. And if I also say, surround yourselves with people who support you. And for those of you who want a little bit more, then look at the inevitable you. It's there for you. That's why. Just go to soulmanifesto.com. Inevitable you. What is it? It gives you those little awakenings every week that you can work on. Those little awakenings that give you control over your life again. And when you have control over your life, you become that mountain. You're not going to move like a fiery ball from each crisis. You'll say, wait a minute, this is feeding a response I don't want. Step back and think about it for a minute. And you'll start to see that all this so-called football team we're creating in our lives is nonsense. And we'll find that kindness, love is really what's needed right now more than anything. Everybody needs it. We're starving for it. Well, I hope that this has given you food for thought. This is a very, I hope it was an eye-opening show. I'm Alena Chapman, and guys, spirit is love, and love is spirit. It is not a flaming forest, okay? If you want to check out the Inevitable You, please do. I swear it'll really help you to get those little awakenings and calm that fire inside. And if it doesn't, then you just email me, info@soulmanifesto.com, and let me know. Other than that, I wish you the very best on your awakenings and your steady transformation. Namaste.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.